What's
Hey,
up?
what's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome again, once again, to Jam the Hype Live. So glad to be back here with you guys today. My name is George Moss. I am the host here at Jam the Hype Live, where we help Christian urban artists live lives transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm joined here by my co-host, Cherie. What's up, Cherie?
What's up? It is hot in California. I am burning up in this garage studio.
I guess that's kind of like the good thing about living in Michigan a little bit. It's hot outside, but it's not really super hot here. But also, I got the AC on, so I really don't know what's going on outside. But anyway, today I'm excited about today's topic because today we're continuing our journey through the book called The Artist's Way. If you haven't got a chance to check it out, I'll put a link in the description of this video or in the comment section in just a minute. But if you want to take a deeper dive into this process with us each day, of course, you can always join us in the Jam the Hype Artist Development Group, which is our own network where we get a chance to talk about different things like going through this book and different things that different artists deal with when it comes to music, money, and ministry. So I'll put a link into the comment section in just a minute in this video. But today we're going to take a deeper dive into what it means to recover the sense of abundance. When I think about that word abundance, you think about, I said this on the Instagram story earlier today. It's like, you think of like the prosperity gospel preachers where it's like, hey, God wants you to be rich. You just got to sow a seed and all that. And you have one extreme, and then you have another extreme of people where it's like, God doesn't want you to have any money at all, sell all your possessions, live amongst the poor, and sacrifice your life completely because God doesn't want you to be happy on this earth at all. There's two different extremes of all of that. And what I like about this book is that the idea of abundance doesn't necessarily come from the idea of how much you have, but more so their mindset surrounding what you actually have. And as I talked about last week, I was having this kind of scarcity argument with my wife last week. And I'll tell you up front, I lost. But so when but the thing is, we think about, so my wife and I both, we come from a background of poverty, so to speak, a background of lack. So this idea of abundance, we never had abundance growing up. We never had enough of anything growing up as a kid. So we have this mentality. And I saw this quote and I started to think about it myself. I'm like, it says people are willing to go broke for their kids, but not willing to become millionaires for their kids. And I thought about this idea and I'm like, you know what? Of all the people that I know that kind of grow up not having much, they want to go out and give everything to their kids. They want to get them the nice things. They want to make sure that they have what they want, some of their desires and things like that. However, they're willing to kind of sacrifice their savings, sacrifice their lifestyle for their kids. And I get that sacrifice. However, they're not willing to make the sacrifice of like working hard and staying up late, getting up early, building a business or investments or anything like that to really build a business or build finances, to build an abundance of wealth in order to give that to their kids. So I'm thinking of this idea of like, if you're trying to give all this stuff to your kids and we don't have enough to give to them. I mean, we're getting by, we feed them, like we're not struggling, like, which is fine, but we're not where I, would want to be. I certainly don't have I can't just take them on trips to Disney or take them on trips around the world. It's like, we ain't got money like that.
Take them to Disney right now, I can tell you that, because the Rona is real.
Well, I wouldn't want to take them to Disney anyway, but that's just a example. It's just a whole nother conversation. But I was just thinking about this and this kind of mentality, because what she was thinking of is, she was like, you know what? We don't have to think about this in this mentality of money, because if you're thinking about money, your scarcity or abundance only in financial senses, you kind of miss out on all the other things that we can live in abundance with now. And she's like, she might be willing to wake up a little bit early. She might be willing to work hard, but she's not willing. The conversation was, she's not willing to allow our 5-year-old now, or 5-year-old, to go to kindergarten full time. Like, we could send him to school full time. And the thing is, we pay for private school. It's going to be the same price whether he goes part time or full time. I'm like, we're paying the same price. He can be home or he can be there. We can get more work done when he's there. But she's like, I'm not willing to sacrifice that time with him right now, even if I'm going to build it later on. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, all we're doing is sacrificing one school year, and then the rest of our lives we'll be able to work more. And like, but the reality is like, that's kind of a I wouldn't say a pipe dream. I think it actually could happen, but I think she's the reality that she was like, we're missing out on what we have right now. So I think there's a balance of both of those things. And I really had to come back to like, you know what? Abundance doesn't just come from money or the abundance of money, but the abundance of all of our resources. And the biggest resource that we can't get enough of is time. And although I can see why she doesn't want to sacrifice this 1 year of him being in kindergarten, because we're never going to get that year back. We can get more money, but we can never get that time back.
Something that related to me on this chapter about abundance is I'm a creative director at UIWI, which Jam the Hype is under. And we are going to be going into a fundraising season. So the question I had to our team is, will the creative projects that we make to raise $500,000, will it even make a dent in the millions of youth we really want to reach? So even if we had the abundance of $500,000 and we could create whatever we wanted, would what we created be something that would actually make a dent in reaching 1 million youth? In other words, I was encouraging my creative team not to just hone in creative ideas. Dream. If you want $500,000, dream like you have $500,000. Make a creative idea that would cost $500,000. In other words, I feel like oftentimes we think if we have the money, then we'll have the creativity. But oftentimes I see people who have a lot of money and their creativity sucks. I think there needs to be a balance.
There definitely does. I'm thinking about that too. It's like one of the reasons, I'm not going to lie, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything, but like I know my way around the kitchen. I can go in there with just a few ingredients and make a delicious meal. Like it could be really good. And I think that came from the lack of resources helped me to be more creative in what I've got. And there's the famous story of the Wright brothers that didn't have any funding, didn't have any major funding by anybody else to create the first aircraft. But there's another guy that was doing it at the same time, and I don't even remember his name, but he had tons of backers, tons of money, and he couldn't get the job done. And it's almost sometimes if you have too many resources, you have too many things at hand, it ruins your creativity, because now you have all these different options and you spend so much time choosing through your options that you're not actually creative with what you actually have, which I thought was pretty interesting. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that might be a good idea, but I still want the money, to be.
There was a part in the book that stuck out to me. She said, we cling to our financial concerns as a way to avoid not only our art, but also our spiritual growth. Our faith is in the dollar.
Yeah.
So we say to ourselves, I have to keep a roof over my head. And we say, nobody's going to pay me to be more creative. And so that was what I was saying. I was trying to say to my team, like, people will pay us. If our creativity, if like what we're actually making is dope and it actually hits a need, they will pay us. Donors will come through. You know what I mean? So I think it's connected.
Yeah. And if you provide, that's in anything. If you provide value for something,
yes,
there's money. And the thing is that the abundance of money is a byproduct of the value that you actually create. And a lot of times we think of an abundance. I know I think of an abundance of stuff when it comes to just money, but there's so many other things. Like if we had an abundance of time, what would we do with it?
Yeah.
Especially an abundance of creativity. What would we do with it? For me, I know I've been in situations where I will sit down and be writing some lyrics or something like that. And I typically, if I am writing, I'll write just, if I'm inspired to write, I'll write just some random things.
Okay.
And then I piece it all together later on as like a little puzzle piece. I'm like, I'll take a bar from here. I wrote this down on a napkin over there. I had this on my phone here. And I kind of puzzle piece all these things together. And sometimes I'm like, man, I'm going to save that little nugget, that little piece for later. I'm going to save that for later. And if we realize that we really can live in abundance, if we truly believe that we're connected to the creator and our creativity is coming from the ultimate fountain of creativity, there's no reason for me to try to save this for later. I can give my best right now in the situation I am right now, because I know if I came up with something dope today and no one sees it, well, I'm going to come up with something dope tomorrow too, because that's just what I do. Like I have an abundance of that coming out of me.
Speaking of dope, I see your son is on today. What's up, Chris? I'd
Juice
say
is on here. He's taking a look at everything right now. He's been hanging out with me these past few weeks, which has been pretty dope.
awesome. Yeah, so I think, Jam the Hype, one of the things we really push is that you're not just a creator, you're not just an artist, but you are a leader. And if you are a leader and you have a vision for your art, what you create matters. So I think the idea that you need to create with a sense of abundance is really what I took away from this chapter. Create with a sense of abundance.
Yeah, and if we really operate out of the sense that we have an abundance of things, we start to look at things much much differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's my idea. I just don't want to save anything for later. And I guess I'm trying to also think of like you want to. So when you have an abundance of something, what
Mm-hmm.
you have sometimes becomes devalued. Like if there's too much of something, then it's not scarce, so it's not really that valuable. So
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of finding that balance between abundance and having plenty versus being wasteful and
Yeah.
not caring. Like
Yep.
in America, there's an abundance. There's abundance of food and
Mm-hmm.
clean water. But
Mm-hmm.
if some of our, if somebody that is, starving in, Papua New Guinea somewhere, and they're looking at like I don't even know if Papua New Guinea has, I don't know. But just saying somewhere random, that is, living in real poverty. Like for instance, one of the real places I visited, living like standing in a landfill where people lived. They
Mm.
lived in this landfill down in Honduras. I went down there a few years ago,
Okay.
and we go to this place. They live on the landfill, like literally. They set up little shanties there, and
Mm.
the only food that they have to eat is every Thursday they would bring in this chicken truck that dumps all the chicken parts, wasted parts from like the grocery stores, the spoiled,
Mm.
rotten, nasty, stinky, smelly chicken parts,
Right.
and everybody was just like all the people that lived there flooded to the truck to try to get whatever pieces that they could get. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not only people they're in competition with. There's literally thousands, like tens of thousands of birds and buzzards flying overhead.
Oh
There's
my
cattle
goodness.
that's grazing through there. Like everybody is like rushing this chicken truck.
Mm.
And they could take this piece of the chicken and they would make this broth out of it
Mm.
with rainwater that they could boil. And they'd have this broth, and that's what that would sustain them through the next week until the next chicken truck came. And
Wow.
I'm like, if like literally, I'm just thinking about that, literally standing there in that moment, just smelling the smells and looking at all the things going on. And if they were to see the way we
Mm.
waste money and
Mm-hmm.
waste food, I'm like, there's a responsibility that we do have when we
Yeah.
do have an abundance.
Yes.
And that abundance should be not taken as, okay, I have so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just blow it
Mm.
versus I've got so much of this. How much can I give away? How much can I, how much of a difference can I make in somebody else's life for this? How much value can I create to the world? Because when you do create value, when you do put out so much value to the world, money does actually follow. Side note, and I'm just thinking of I was having a conversation today with a photographer that came into my office.
Mm-hmm.
We're here, and there's so many people that like, especially photographers. If you're a photographer, I want you to listen up real close, because, or any sort of creator, especially even a rapper or an artist, there's so many people that don't want to, they say that they come into this idea they need to value themselves and value their time and value their product, which is you do, but they keep it from so many people because like a photographer is not willing to go out and to shoot somebody that doesn't have the budget for free and make dope stuff and put it out into the world because they don't want to get it stolen from them. Or artists don't want to, release this song before they get it copywritten. They got to make sure it's copywritten before I put it out on my SoundCloud page because someone's going to steal it. And we're just having this conversation. I'm like, if you're allowing the fear of somebody taking your stuff and creativity out there and using it for something else, from if that's preventing you from putting it out there, then you're robbing yourself and this world, and you're going to stunt your own growth by thinking if what you're doing is actually abundant, you can create a plethora of dope stuff. And if somebody takes something, I'm waiting for the day that somebody steals my song, my riff, or something like that. One, because it's a big check coming when there's money involved in that way. But other than that, I've never once I haven't had an issue with somebody like taking my stuff and stealing it. And if they did, it's a flattering thing to me. It didn't cost me anything.
I had to turn off my mic for a second just because, again, it is a heat wave here in California. I'm in my garage studio, so I have to have the doors open, so you might hear a little bit of sounds from outside. But I agree with you. I think there's this idea of stewardship when it comes to how we spend our talent, our time, and our treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I think is a treasure is time. And you said that, right? And it's a luxury for us to be able to spend time on ourselves. And so in the book, she talks about we as artists have to stoke our creative souls so that we can actually be in a space where we can create with abundance and with a clear mind. And so that's a luxury to take time and spend it on yourself, right? Just to be creative.
Yeah.
But I had to pitch this recently to my creative team and say, hey guys, listen, I need us to get all of our work done in 4 days. Because on Fridays, I want us to do what we call Creative Soul Fridays. So that's where we are offline. We are not working. We are not doing our projects. We do whatever will stoke our creative soul. Now, that's a luxury, I know. But it's a luxury that I've noticed when my team, my creative team of graphic designers, videographers, photographers, social media managers, when we don't have time for our own soul, our art starts to suffer. I can see it. It starts to become a job rather than an artistry. And I, as a creative director, I have to watch that with my team. So I always say, okay, guys, do whatever's going to refresh your soul. And it could be anything. So for one of my team members, he loves to take refreshing swims. So he'll just jump in the ocean and just play. For another one of my team members, he's a photographer. So he'll go out and shoot and just wander around, get lost shooting. For me, I love going on my paddleboard because that's where everything has to stop. I have to quiet down. Nobody can bother me. And I can just be alone with my thoughts and really just work out some of the ideas that have been like popping up at me all week that I hadn't had time to really process through. I love my paddleboard. So that's what I get to do. And I got to sell that to my my lead team and say, hey guys, I know everybody else is working on Friday. We're going to be out doing all this stuff. And I had to make that, that's kind of a luxury. Right? They're like, Sheree, are you being a diva? I'm like, no, this is what artists need. But, making that bold ask for what you need to be your best self as an artist, I think is a luxury. But I think in this book, it talks about it's a necessary luxury if you want your art to stay sharp.
And if you're living in abundance, you have an abundance to actually give yourselves luxurious things. And actually, as I approach this chapter, I'm so glad that you even brought this up, because as I approach this chapter, when I was looking at luxury, I'm thinking in my mind, like, here we go again with this sort of like, this, prosperity gospel type.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call it what it is.
Yeah.
But in actuality, when you do have an abundance, say if you're a multi-millionaire and you want to go out and have a nice dinner and you're spending, you drop, $200-$300 on dinner, it's not that big of a deal to you, even though, yes, there's a lot of people in a lot of other countries where $200 or $300 is their entire year's salary, and you drop that on, some meals or a meal. However, when you have an abundance, that's, according to what you have, is not that much. And I think when we think of it as in monetary senses, in my mind, I really have this sort of block there because, one, I grew up not having money. So when I feel like it's wasted, I'm like, I don't care if I'm a billionaire. I'm not going to spend $300 on a steak. I don't care that's just my mentality of that. But the idea that I loved in the differentiation, I loved like listening to this book and reading it. She was saying that luxury is not necessarily about your money. It's how what you define luxury is like what gives you true joy, what actually gives you true joy. Because I know for me, when I am hustling all the time, I'm making sacrifices of my joy, of what I actually want to do, so that I could attain that joy later on. What my wife has taught me after having this conversation last week was that there's a lot of luxury and a lot of things that I truly enjoy that I don't have to be centered around money, that I can enjoy right now.
Yes.
Like one of those things last Friday, I never, it's funny that you even mentioned this because I'm like, yo, I'm working on Friday. I don't know what y'all doing in the office, but like, yo, like I got things to do. I got too many things on my plate to like take off on a Friday. But last week, after having this conversation with my wife, I was like, you know what? They take off on Friday. Normally, I work Sunday through Friday. I don't care. It's like people work 5-day work, Sunday through Friday for me. But last week, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go take the day and I'm going to go play golf. Um,
Nice.
now, technically, I made it a business expense because, you know, I'm a business person. I got to take a client out with me. We finna write this off. However, I go out there and I brought my son with me, and he had the time of his life.
Awesome.
And I don't know, the round of golf between all of us maybe is, you know, $80 or something like that. But the time that I had to spend with my son, 5 years old, whacking around a golf ball, throw this thing, like excited to hop on the golf cart, go back and forth, and all this stuff. As he was doing that, like this, that was priceless. That's
Mm,
one thing. That's something that I find to be luxurious. And I was like,
yeah.
I've been missing out on this. And my
Hmm.
wife has been telling me that, look, you're missing out on this. $1 million can't buy this.
Amen.
And $1 million could buy the tea time, but like there's cheap golf courses I can go to now that I can afford right now. There's some things that I can go and afford to do right now that don't cost money. They might cost time. They might cost just relational investment. And I feel like when we live in abundance and we realize I'm not concerned about the money because God's going to take care of my needs. The lilies of the field are clothed. It's like, don't be so concerned. Don't be anxious about tomorrow. There's
Mhm.
enough, there's enough anxiety for tomorrow. Just be worried about today. And I think what it shows me is that I live in a lack of faith when I
Mhm.
live in a lack of abundance.
Yeah.
Because when I know that I'm created to or connected to the creator, um, I know that he provides all that I need. And I
Mhm.
don't have to be so anxious about not having. I can live in the fact of what I do have today.
Yeah. So hopefully, guys, you're hearing that this is a mindset. Abundance is a mindset. It's not like some sort of way of life where like you have to have a Rolex and you have to drive a Benz. Like that's not what we're talking about. It is really a mindset. So a lot of artists have the mindset of deprivation. Like I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have enough this. I don't have enough that. But this book is pushing us to realize that a little authentic luxury can go a long way. And the key word here is authentic, because art is born in expansion, in a belief in sufficient supply. It is critical that we pamper ourselves for the sense of abundance it brings to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be saying, what is that? You know, what's pampering, Sri? What constitutes as pampering? It can be a bunch of different things for a bunch of different people. George explained it's playing golf for him, paddleboarding for me, for my coworker, it's taking a refreshing swim. For some people, it's taking pictures. It could be collecting magazines, whatever it is. It's a mindset, and then it's actually acting in that space, and stop living in deprivation. You will never create your best art in that space. Abundance and self-care are connected. You've got to take care of you and your soul, your creative soul, so that you can live in that space of abundance, so that your art is dope. Period.
Man, I'm honestly, I did not even know why you guys took Friday off
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's because I haven't lived out in California. I'm not in the office. I'm over here in Michigan. But it's like, man, that is that is amazing. And like I see as I'm loving the process of going through this Artist Way book because it is healing. And it's revealing to me things that I thought that I knew, but actually I didn't know them. Which has been amazing. And one of the things that I love, because in my mind, abundance, just like a lot of people, abundance is connected to money. And money is connected to your heart, because where your treasure is, there
Mm-hmm.
your heart will be also. And there's a little exercise that we have in this that they talk about in this book. And it's just an exercise. It's called the money madness exercise. So
Yeah.
we're going to go through this exercise, and I just want you to talk about, let's just talk about what this says. And I want to hear from the comments by the way, shout out to Jim, shout out to Gabriel, shout out to Juice being in the chat room right now. I want you to be able to listen in the chat room. Anybody else that's there, sound off, let me know where you're at. And
Cheryl.
when it comes to this, I want you to give me the answer to this. It says, people with money are blank. People with money are blank. Give me your comment section. In the comment section, I want to hear what you have to say. But Sheree, when you say that, people with money are what?
Bougie.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
Again, it's whatever comes to your mind, right? So it's not
Okay.
necessarily that I believe this, but I think as soon as you said it, it was like, that's kind of like
Okay.
a stereotype. They're bougie. Yeah.
And that's what I did. That's what I did too. When I was actually reading this, I was actually reading this. I wasn't reading this in the car. My wife was reading this to me in the car, and I was having her write this down because I was driving and trying to do this at the same time. But anyway, the first thought that I came through was money. People with money are comfortable.
Mm,
Um, That's what I thought. Juice says, or Dominic says,
Free.
free. People with
Mhm.
money are free. And there might be a little bit of truth to that. You
Yeah.
have freedom. You got options to make decisions. All right. Money makes people blank.
Powerful.
Money makes people powerful. I cheated on this one. I put money makes people comfortable. Like, again,
Mhm.
it makes you comfortable. It's not necessarily that I believe this, but it
Ooh.
is it's the first thing that I said.
Jim says equipped and Gabriel says privileged.
Privileged. That's true. I think that's a lot of that.
There is.
It says if I have more money, or I'd have more money if blank.
I have more money. I would have more money if I knew how to better use my time.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I think time and money are kind of connected sometimes.
It is. I said if I would have more money if I worked more.
Which means
However,
time.
that's time, but I think it's not work more. It's work smart. The richest
Smart.
people that I know don't work at all. Like the richest guy I know, he comes into the office once a month.
Yeah, because people he can pay to do all his stuff. I can't wait till I can get to that point.
Right. What was the question? It says if I'd have more money if. I'd have more money if. The next one, it says my dad thought money was blank.
Something you worked for.
Something you worked for. My dad thought money was scarce. My mom always thought money would blank.
Heal her addiction.
What did it?
That's deep, right?
Heal her addiction. I said my mom always thought money would make her happy. She thought that that's where happiness would be. If she just had more money, she'd be more happy. In my family, money caused what?
Fights.
I said the exact same thing.
More money, more problems.
More money, more problems. Like the thing is, money causes. Is it money? The lack of money.
Yeah.
Or the preservation of money.
It's the deprivation. It is the deprivation. And that's why, I mean, I won't get into this now, but that deprivation causes fights in families and communities, everywhere, in businesses and in homes and churches. Deprivation, that mindset, going back to that mindset, y'all, is a killer. Oof, it's a killer.
Yeah, there's a man
strife.
that
Ooh, I said strife. That's a better word. Strife.
Strife?
That's
Who
a
said
good
strife?
word, right? Jim.
It does cause strife. I think the lack of it does. But sometimes the abundance of it does too, especially when like you have too much and you feel paranoid. I've never been in that situation. I just heard about it. Somebody else was saying stuff like that. But the lack of it for me and my family is definitely what caused fights. And I think that's one of the number one reasons why people get divorced is centered around money. But I also think it's because money, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And a lot of times money fights are heart fights, because where your money is, that's where your heart actually is and where you want to spend that. Let's hop into the next one. It says, if I had money, I'd what?
Buy a boat, because you guys know I love water. Oh man, I want a boat so bad. I would literally, if I had a boat Friday, I would just be like, bye everybody. I would get on my boat. You wouldn't see me until Sunday evening.
I think we're talking about two different kinds of boats, but I would say the same. I have the same thing in later questions. Like, I want a bass boat. Like, that's what I want right now. More than like, man, if I can get a bass boat and just get out on the water, that'd be dope. But I think the older I get, the more I kind of want a bass boat, and I want a pontoon boat just for chilling, have a grill out there, have parties and jump in the lake. But I'm like, man, that's what I would do if I you talking about the ocean. I hate jellyfish, so I ain't messing with the ocean. If I could afford it, I'd what? Buy a boat?
No, I'd buy homes for my family. There's just so many people in my family and my extended family and my husband's family that just struggle with housing. Housing is a big issue, I think, in our country today in general. Good housing, quality housing. So I really wish I could just buy up some real estate and make sure my family was in a safe space.
That'd be dope. I wish I could travel with my family. One of the things about being an artist and being on the road all the time. Now, again, it's coronavirus season, so I haven't been traveling as much. But however, like for years, I'm having all these amazing experiences out on the road. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know what it's like to be up in northern Minnesota in the wintertime where they're driving their trucks on the ice and catching walleye, all the way down to Arizona where they don't have grass in their front yard. It's just a bunch of gravel and cactuses. And then you have, the hard streets of New York City, all the way to palm trees in, Los Angeles. And I'm having all these amazing experiences, but I'm having them by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I was able to have my family out there with me. So if I was to have the money and if I could afford it, I'd bring my family out with me. We're gonna have to skip down a few of these. It says money is blank.
Mm.
Money is blank. What you got?
I didn't have anything for that one because I feel like I already said it. I said it's powerful. It gives you, well, I guess I could say it gives you access.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say money is a tool. I
Okay.
look at it as like money itself. I don't look at it as anything. It's other than a tool. Like it's a very good resource that you can use for anything. But yes, definitely money is a tool for me to be able to build things, to give things, to make the world a better place. But also I think money reveals who a person truly is. Because whatever you are, money's only going to magnify it. It's a magnifier. It's not you're not going to change because you get money. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
become more of who you actually are when you get money.
Yeah.
Let's see here. When I have money, I usually blank.
Spend. When I have money, I spend it.
That's funny. Like,
That's why I'm married to an economist because he'll do the budget and say, well, yeah, we have this, so you can spend this. So I try
oh
not
man,
to know what is the amount of money we have because I might end up just spending it.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty
For
sure.
the boat, right?
Like, yo, no. This is what we have. He has a special account that y'all have, and he has another account somewhere. I was like, okay, this is what we're really gonna do with our money.
Yeah.
When I realize when I do have money, like tax season come around, or something, I have really good. With artists, it's like it ebbs and flows. Like you come off tour, you like, yo, like I'm good. And
Mm-hmm.
then like 4 months later, you're like, yo, I'm gonna take anything I can get. Like it's this whole
Yep.
feast or famine thing. But I realized though about me, this is a flaw in my personality. When I do have money and I'm sort of comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of ease off and I don't go as hard and I feel like I'm not fulfilling my purpose as well as I should be fulfilling my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have that sort of carrot to drive me. And I think that's another reason why God is like, no, you're not even mature enough to have a whole bunch of money because every time I give you some, you just chill. And like, and now granted, a lot of that chilling is spending more time with family. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
that time is like, yo, I don't mind taking a day off to just go and hang out because I know I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other times where it's like, yeah, I'll sleep in a little bit. I'll kind of miss my morning routine, and
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that's one of those things. But
Yep.
there's a lot more questions that we have that we could go through and that will continue on in the artist development group. If
Mm-hmm.
you are a rapper, singer, producer, photographer, YouTube creator, whatever creator you might be, and you want to be able to grow your artistry, your music, your money, and your ministry, I want you to join us in the Jam the Hype Artist Development Group. I'm putting the link in the description as well as in the comment section below this video on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the comments below or on the description section of this. We're going through the Artist Way book, but definitely want you to join us in the Jam the Hype Artist Development Network if you are one of those people, so we can continue this conversation and a whole lot more as we go through this book.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and we're going to be back next week with recovering a sense of connection. But before we move on to that, in that direction, I want you guys to walk away from this episode getting this. Abundance is a state of mind, and it's from there your artistry flows. So don't get it twisted. Abundance in one area, think about this, I'm going to leave you with this thought, may mean lack in another area. But you get to choose how you spend your time, talent, and treasure, your God-given abundance, your talent, your gifts, your time, your energy. But understand this, God is a God of abundance, and he asks us to be good stewards. So you have some choices to make on how you're going to spend your time and your abundance this week.
You know what? I forgot to, Ethan, kind of wrap up my final thoughts on all this and what I've learned from this chapter is abundance is just another form of freedom. And if you
Come
look in scripture, it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
on.
And I was a couple years ago, I'm over in Israel where
Mm,
that psalm would have likely been written.
mm,
And it's going over the hills and the valleys and the paths and things like that. And it's showing this picture of like when the Lord is leading you, just like
mm,
he leads a sheep, he leads them beside the still waters. A shepherd knows where to go and where to turn. The sheep doesn't have to worry about anything
mhm,
because the sheep just has to make sure he's within the master's voice and he goes where the master is leading him. And if we're
mhm,
truly following God and following the master, we don't need to have a want in the world. We can live in abundance, not one day when we get to where we got to go, when we reach our dreams and all that, but we can live in that abundance right now. So thank you
right
guys
now.
for tuning in. Much appreciated. Don't forget, before next week, Thursday, when we come back again for Jam the Hype Live, before that, Talk Back Tuesday on Instagram, we get a chance to talk back to you, get some feedback, get some questions, and of course, join the Jam the Hype Artist Development Group if you are one of the rappers, singers, producers, artists that want to continue to grow in your spiritual path to have a higher creativity. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys again next week. Peace.
Peace.